initial modeling projections on April the 9th underpredicted the number of deaths. This was because a lower general population case fatality ratio was used in the model that we had at the time.
Minutes
but
to
with
get
a large
online.
number
That's
of outbreaks
crazy. Only
occurring in
16
long-term
minutes
cohorts,
here in Canada with the internet, hey?
Rate was higher than the modeling scenario. The models have been adjusted with a higher case fatality rate, and we will continue to make adjustments to these forecasting models over time based on real data. Right now, we are seeing the tragic paradox of the epidemic playing out. The epidemic comes under control, and the growth of cases slows. The severe outcomes and deaths continue to accrue as COVID-19 takes a heavy toll among highly susceptible populations.
Slide 13. This slide illustrates possible trajectories generated by a forecasting model that uses real Canadian case data.
This is the last one.
The graph on the left shows that the predicted number of COVID-19 cases could be in the range of 53,000 to 67,000 cases by May 5th. The graph on the right shows that the predicted number of deaths due to COVID-19 could be in the range of 3,300 to 3,900 by May 5th. Due to changes in the epidemiology of COVID-19 in Canada, including outbreaks in high-risk settings, the initial modeling projections on April 9th underpredicted the number of deaths. This was because a lower general population case fatality rate was used in the model that we had at the time. But with a large number of outbreaks occurring in long-term care homes, the actual case fatality rate was higher than the modeling scenario. The models have been adjusted with the higher case fatality rate, and we will continue to make adjustments to these forecasting models over time based on real data. Right now, we are seeing the tragic paradox of the epidemic playing out. As the epidemic comes under control and the growth of cases slows, the severe outcomes and deaths continue to accrue as COVID-19 takes a heavy toll among highly susceptible populations.
I'll leave my pleasure craft card here.
Slide 14.
This is high ground. I don't want to lose it.
You are now familiar with this graph and concepts showing the potential impact of our public health measures on the size and duration of the epidemic wave. This slide illustrates the three possible scenarios we use for planning. The red curve for the sharp high peak represents the no controls or worst case scenario, where the majority of the population could be infected over a relatively short period of time. The blue line curve shows a scenario where weaker epidemic controls have been implemented to delay and reduce the height of the peak. The green smaller curve represents a best case scenario in which we implement strong public health measures to reach our objective epidemic control.
I know what I did. I didn't give it a chance to load before I pressed the go live.
Working towards where each infected person only transmits to less than one other person. To stay on this green best case scenario curve, we must achieve and maintain a high degree of physical distancing while also maintaining a high rate of case detection and isolation and contact tracing and quarantine.
Diapositive 14.
Slide 14. You are now familiar with this graph and concept.
You're listening to a federal update on 680 News. Health officials are releasing some modeling projections expecting things to continue in the next couple of days to weeks. Canada's epidemic, they say their growth rate is slowing, cases initially doubling every 3 days, now doubling every 16 days with the measures that are in place right now. Dr. Theresa Tam, our Chief Public Health Officer, unveiling a couple of other stats by saying that they expect that at the rate they're going right now, 53,000 to 66,000 cases of COVID-19 in this country by May the 5th, and anywhere between 3,200 and 3,800 deaths by May 5th, which is next Tuesday. Let's continue to listen in.
The smaller curve represents a best case scenario.
What was on slide 14?
Strong public health measures to reach our objectives of epidemic control.
You'll be on like 17 or 18
This
now.
is the scenario we are currently working towards, where each person.
I need a fucking coffee, God.
infected only transmits to less than one other person. To stay on this green best-case scenario curve, we must achieve and maintain a high degree of physical distancing while also maintaining a high rate of case detection and isolation and contact tracing and quarantine.
They call you Anglos. You go fishing or something?
Slide 15. All jurisdictions are working towards epidemic control. However, it is critical to remember that once we are on the downside of the slope, we must absolutely remain vigilant and continue our public health measures. By achieving epidemic control, we expect that only a small proportion of the population will be immune. So, until the population has developed a high level of immunity to the virus, or we have a vaccine in place, we have to plan to live with a manageable level of COVID-19.
What was on slide 14?
Therefore, we anticipate that some public health measures will need to remain in place to prevent the sparking and growth of future epidemic waves.
Toutes les administrations s'efforcent de maîtriser l'épidémie. Il ne faut toutefois pas oublier que, une fois que nous serons sur la pente descendante, nous devrons à tout prix rester vigilants et poursuivre nos mesures de santé publique. En maîtrisant l'épidémie, nous nous attendons à ce que seuls
We expect that only
I don't notice you talking French, so you fucking interrupt it.
So until the population has developed a high level of immunity
I respond in
to
English
the virus,
these assholes don't understand me when I fucking cuss them out.
Place, we have to plan to live with a manageable level of COVID-19 activity. Therefore, we anticipate that some public health measures will need to remain in place to prevent the sparking and growth of future epidemic waves.
I'm going to stay on line, even if the thing ends. So
we continue to monitor the situation closely and will evaluate, learn, and adapt as we go. We are making progress to slow the spread and bring the epidemic under control, thanks to the commitment of Canadians who are following public health advice to protect themselves and others. The epidemiology of COVID-19 is not the same in all parts of the country, so when and how control measures are readjusted and or relaxed will need to be decided based on the local epidemiologic situation. It is critically important that we maintain our public health measures, including physical distancing, until we have achieved epidemic control.
If I buy one and just give it to her, she'll put the
relaxing controls too quickly will squander our collective efforts to date and put us at risk of future
You know what I'm talking about,
waves.
the oven with the racks and it just stays hot all the time.
Slide 16, summary. We continue to monitor the situation closely and will evaluate, learn, and adapt as we go. We are making clear progress to slow the spread and bring the epidemic under control thanks to the commitment of Canadians who are following public health advice to protect themselves and others. The epidemiology of COVID-19 is not the same in all parts of the country. So when and how control measures are readjusted or relaxed will need to be decided based on the local epidemic situation. It is critically important that we maintain our public health measures, including physical distancing, until we have achieved epidemic control for the first wave. Relaxing controls too quickly could squander our collective efforts to date and put us...
And you've been listening to a federal update here from health officials in Ottawa. Dr. Theresa Tam among those, Canada's chief public health officer, saying that 49,025 cases of coronavirus to date here in Canada. And some new projections that they were releasing today suggesting that by the time we get to May 5th, which is next Tuesday, 53,000 to 66,000 cases of COVID-19 may be present in this country as we're going. And at the same time, she also said anywhere between 3,200 and 3,800.
We were listening to her say it. When you stop,
she did note that there are some major regional differences in there as well. 80% of all confirmed cases in this country coming in Ontario and Quebec. And we'll have more on what Dr. Tam had to say along with other Health officials coming up at 12:30.
680 News Time.
What's coming up at 12:30? What the fuck's coming up at
It's now
12:30?
time for the 680 News Business Report. Let's check in at the Business Center with Chris McCusker. Now, Chris, you are saying that one U.S. airline is reporting a quarterly loss for the first time in a really long time.
Southwest Airlines is posting its first quarterly loss, Steve, in almost a decade, and it doesn't see any improvement in air travel on the horizon. Now, the Dallas-based carrier says it swung to a loss of $94 million for the quarter ending March 31st, compared to a profit of $387 million last year. None of this surprising. Travel has essentially been at a standstill during the pandemic. Shares in Southwest Airlines today got close to a six-year low. 28.25. Now the stock is higher by 17 cents, 29.26. On Wall Street, we've got a fair bit of fluctuation, no big moves, with the Dow trying for a fifth straight winning day, which could be the longest winning streak since January. Right now it's down 19. The NASDAQ off by 99 and the S&P higher by half a point. In the U.S., the consumer confidence gauge did see a record plunge to 86.9 in April from 118.8. Adam Hennick is investment advisor at Hennick Wealth.
We have a market that's within 15%, of its all-time high, which is sort of surprising because we have an economy that's shut down and we don't know how long it's going to go on for. I find it encouraging that the markets are stronger in light of the pandemic. And the reason why I find it encouraging is that usually people vote with their wallets. So when the markets are going higher, it's telling you that the impact longer term on the economy is something that we can handle.
The TSX is higher for a third straight day. It's up by 126 points, 14,768. Gold is down $3, $17.20. Oil is up 43 cents, $12.33 a barrel. And the Canadian dollar up by a fifth of a cent, 71.44 cents U.S. I'm Chris McCusker. This is 680 News.
Hi, it's Tony Chapman, host of the podcast Chatter That Matters. Thanks to the incredible support of RBC, we're focusing on the heart of the Canadian economy, small businesses. Lisa Taylor creates Challenge Factory to answer this question.
What is the mental health aspect of coming into a job knowing it's not exactly what you want to be doing, but feeling like you have to keep at it?
Challenge Factory becomes a successful research-based consultancy, helping clients create productive and purposeful cultures. And then COVID-19 arrives.
What's going to happen next month? Do I have the funds? Can I pay my people?
Our experts arrive with advice for Lisa and for all of us. Download Chatter That Matters wherever you get your podcasts. And thanks again to RBC for your support of Small Business Matters.
Getting you where you need to go
faster.
The most traffic in Toronto. 680 News.
Well, let's take a look at Denise Andriachi's forecast for today. Mostly cloudy conditions, rain on and off this afternoon. It's off right now, though, and we are expecting a guaranteed high of 9 degrees. Some rain expected overnight, low down to 7. For tomorrow, rainy and windy. It is going to be a wet one, up to 25 millimeters of rain and some pretty gusty winds, anywhere between 30 and 50 kilometers an hour. A guaranteed high tomorrow of 9. Right now in downtown Toronto, we've got overcast conditions and a temperature of 8 degrees. The News Watch, it never stops. 680 News, we are live 24/7. 680 News Time, 12:30.
Number 1 for news in Toronto. This is 680 News.
Here are Sarah Barrett and Steve Roberts. Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, April 28th.
And good afternoon. Here's what's making news this hour.
News predictions show Canada could have as many as 67,000 COVID-19 cases in 1 week's time and as many as 3,900 deaths.
MPs are now meeting virtually for the first time ever. The online proceedings kickstart with the government defending its response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Marco Muzzo, the man who drove drunk, killing 3 children and a grandfather in 2015, will have his second parole hearing today. The children's mother, Jennifer Neville Lake, will get to make a victim impact statement over the phone.
A soggy rest of the week will give way to sunny skies and near 20-degree highs as we turn the calendar to May. And that has the city urging everyone to keep their space for the good of us all.
Commissioner Ambrosi says this NFL season without fans is highly unlikely, and Krug wants to stay a Bruin. Sports at 45.
We've got Bay Street higher for a third straight day, even with the price of oil hovering around $12 a barrel, and Wall Street is modestly in the red. Business at 56.
680 News Time, 12:31.
Time for traffic and weather together on the ones. Good afternoon, Carrie Prunskis. Good afternoon. This report is brought to you by GP Bikes. I'm looking at a stalled vehicle. Watch out for this northbound on the 400. If you're taking the ramp to Langstaff, it's partially blocking the left lane. No tow truck or anything on this scene here. I've been watching the driver and the passenger try to move it over to the shoulder, but they've been unsuccessful so far. So again, keep an eye out here northbound 400 as you're taking the ramp to Langstaff. It's the left lane that's blocked off. Northbound on the 404 at 16th Avenue, the left lane is closed there for construction. Not spotting any delays, though, so just give those crews their space. If you're heading Toronto bound on the QEW, we have a pretty heavy delay right now approaching Ontario Street. That's heading into Beamsville. 2 left lanes are closed for construction, so that backup starts just past Victoria. And then farther along Toronto bound QEW, as you're approaching the Burlington Skyway, the 2 left lanes are closed for construction, but only a minor delay there. Heads up if you're planning on taking the eastbound 407, the northbound York-Durham Town Line ramp to the eastbound 407, that's shut down. It's all for construction. It's GP Bikes No HST sale, plus up to 60% off. Open online and by phone for easy curbside pickup. Get your new motorcycle with finance rates as low as 0%. GPBikes.com, your power sports authority. And now with the forecast, here's Denise Andriachi.
On and off showers today until at least mid-afternoon, then just a gloomy cloudy day, lows near 7. More showers on the way for Wednesday with steady rain through tomorrow afternoon and night. Your guaranteed high today is 9 degrees.
And right now downtown, it's overcast in 8. We got overcast conditions in 10 out of Pearson. 680 News Time, 12:33.
The federal government has released the latest projections for COVID-19 cases and deaths today, and it looks like our public health measures are paying off. This is Ontario sees a spike in the number of new cases today.
And 680's Irene Frecklett joining us live with more on that, as well as the new modeling coming from the federal government. Irene?
And Steve, the predictions show 1 week from today, Canada could have as many as 67,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and up to 3,900 deaths. Dr. Theresa Tam, Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, says the growth rate is slowing.
Last time I presented this graph to you, Canada's confirmed case count was doubling every 3 to 5 days. At this time, the number of cases is doubling at a rate of every 16 days.
Tam says the initial models released earlier this month under-predicted the number of deaths in Canada, but she says with a large number of outbreaks happening in long-term care homes, there's been a higher fatality rate. 95% of people who have died have been 60 and older. Tam also stressing while the curve is flattening, it's important to not lift restrictions too soon. Reporting live, Irene Frecklett, 680 News. An historic meeting of members of the House of Commons for the first time ever. Members of Parliament are gathering virtually for a special meeting to debate the response to COVID-19. 680's Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney has the latest.
This online gathering of MPs has never happened before, but these are not normal times. A virtual meeting began with Health Minister Patty Hajdu discussing the country's response to this pandemic, saying we've fared better than many others.
To date, in Canada, we have managed to protect our healthcare systems and avoid the kinds of surges that have led to even greater loss of life in other countries.
Hajdu also says she knows we'll be stronger as a country when we come out of this. Conservative MP Matt Jenneru wasting no time in trying to hold the government to account in its response to this pandemic.
Our PPE stockpiles were not adequate, and some healthcare workers are saying they're forced to ration PPE at work. As well, many Canadians have questions about the slow reaction times to implement measures after first hearing about the virus.
This virtual meeting is technically a committee meeting of all members, not a regular sitting of the House, so the rules are a bit different. MPs have about a 5-minute time slots to ask multiple questions of the government. Tomorrow there will be an in-person sitting of the House as a limited number of MPs debate and vote on the $9 billion support package for students. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill. Well, the man convicted of impaired driving causing death, killing 3 young children and their grandfather is up for parole again. And due to the pandemic, victim impact statements are going to be delivered in a different way. Our Momin Qureshi is on the story for us today, joining us live now with those details. Momin.
Steve, that's right, Steve. Marco Muzzo will have his second parole hearing today. He had one last year as well when his parole was denied. Now, he pleaded guilty to driving drunk and killing 3 children, Daniel, Harry, and Millie Neverlake, and their grandfather, Gary Neville, back in 2015. Now, today at the parole hearing, there was going to be no victim impact statements allowed because of the precautions being taken because of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the parole board changing its mind, saying the children's mother, Jennifer Neville Lake, will be able to make a victim impact statement over the phone. Now, I was in the courtroom when she made her original victim impact statement back in 2016. It was very moving. It was heartbreaking. It people shed a lot of tears in that courtroom. I imagine today's will be equally as powerful. She's already taken to Instagram this morning to lay out the timeline of her life from the day of that crash back in September 2015 to when Muzzo could be released if he serves the full 9 years, which would be about 4 years from now. But we'll find out whether he will or will not be granted parole. Reporting live, I'm Owen Qureshi.
680 News Time, 12:37. A Canadian union says it's exploring its options after Foodora decided to shut down operations in Canada. We get details from 680 business editor Chris McCusker. In February, the Ontario Labour Relations Board ruled that couriers working for Foodora had the right to organize. Food delivery workers joined forces with the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, and now CUPW says it's shocked to hear Foodora is closing up shop in Canada on May the 11th. The union goes on to say the 2 weeks notice provided is grossly unfair and unreasonable, and it's now looking at its options. It's also bothered by the fact that hundreds of workers will be out of a job during the pandemic, and CUPW is hoping a better outcome is possible and achievable. At the Business Center, I'm Chris McCusker.
Well, the province's public elementary teachers have now ratified their new 3-year contract with the Ford government. The Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario says 97% of its teacher members voted in favor of the deal. Teachers will get a 1% a year raise for the next 3 years and 4% annual increases to their benefits. The union says the agreement also includes a preserved kindergarten model and a freeze on class sizes.
The Ontario Financial Accountability Office has released a report on the impact of COVID-19 on hospital capacity in this province. The FAO says because of the province's actions to slow the spread of the coronavirus, there is a significant amount of capacity remaining available to treat COVID-19 patients. One of the actions taken was the cancellation of elective surgeries. The report estimates that as of April 22nd, nearly 53,000 procedures have been canceled or avoided. For every week that the pandemic continues, up to 12,200 more procedures are delayed.
Well, the GTA is set to start a new month with some sunshine and daytime highs approaching 20 degrees, which definitely will be good. But with dozens of tickets and hundreds of warnings still being dished out to Torontonians not keeping their distance weekend after weekend, well, does the mayor think we'll be letting our guard down? Here's 680's Mitch Burke.
In any other universe, it's a near-perfect spring story that meteorologists love to talk about.
We really look forward to the first weekend of May, but we need to enjoy this beautiful weather responsibly.
So you've heard the restraint from people like us, but what about those leading the fight to flatten the curve? Mayor Tory never thought he'd say something like this.
The first time in my life probably I've ever really wanted it to not be so nice. People are going to really have to discipline themselves because we saw quite a few crowd scenes at some of the parks last weekend.
In fact, another 500 or so people given tickets last weekend for not keeping their space. Close to 12,000 total now getting a stern talking to. And it's not that your outdoor walk can't happen.
Maybe take a walk on a more quiet street and learn about a new neighborhood or something like that and avoid these crowd scenes at all costs.
Perhaps you could do it all before the sun comes up. Denise Andriacci tells me temperatures will not be as cold as we've been used to in the early morning and late at night. I'm Mitch Burke.
Now the 680 News gas price update and
predicts the price will go down 1 cent at midnight. White, can you fuck off? Can you tell all your boy them nobody gives a fuck who they are? We don't know who you are, and at every turn you're screaming at us about who you are. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what a white boy is. You're never going to be anything to me. No matter how royal or rich you think you are, it means nothing to me.
To the nurses and doctors who doubled their shifts.
These goddamn lids don't close. Why is there a fucking hole in it? Why is it tall? That doesn't help the fucking coffee get in me, eh?
Emergency workers, Subaru dealers salute you. In fact, while we continue to provide essential services to all Subaru customers, we'll drop everything to put you first. Simply visit us on
15 fucking minutes.
We'll safely plan every appointment. From your Ontario Subaru dealers, let's all stay safe.
But I didn't smoke the joint first, did I? That would have been easy. I'll sit here and smoke a joint, ready to go to tuck shop. Nope, got the drugs first, and now I got the weed. This is the drugs, make no mistake.
The ramp to Langstaff is partially
Look at what? I don't mean you no harm. But it just keeps happening to be fucking white boys starting with me. It's not a fucking coincidence. Okay? It's not a coincidence. No, he won't act white enough. We're going to pick on him. Huh? Buddy, I'll show you how South Africans are making this down. I'm not white. I'm not a white South African. I'm not a white Jamaican. You're not getting a fucking message,
That's where the two left lanes are closed, all for construction. So about a 2-kilometer back up
Independent
to
soldier.
the area. And
You
also
can be
Toronto
what you want, and the
QEW
rest of
approaching
the
the Burlington
fucking cross
Skyway.
call
The two left lanes are closed for road work. Still have two right lanes getting through, so only a minor delay there.
But these idiots aren't smart enough to watch YouTube on a cell phone. They think that's dumb. What are you talking about, bro? I don't know who the fuck you are. Oh, you're a bitch. Why are you hiding in the coffee shop? Buddy, I'm buying a goddamn coffee. Who are you?
Durham Town Line, that ramp to the eastbound 407 is shut down for construction. It's scheduled to reopen at about 4 o'clock this afternoon. To help you stay safe and at home, Rona is offering free parcel shipping and curbside pickup with online purchases
I spilled one of my coffees. I went back to buy another one, and that's what shit was
Denise Andriachi.
You see, I dropped my coffee in. Everything shit. If I had made it up the gut, I was almost at this fucking
cloudy. Some dry weather Tuesday night before we get into more active weather for Wednesday. Very steady wet weather Wednesday, beginning of showers and then heavy rain at times with strong winds for the day on Wednesday up to 50 kilometers per hour. Gusts. Highs tomorrow only near 10 degrees. Your guaranteed high for today
every other fucking day I'm getting attacked by who? It's always a white boy.
We've got overcast
Always a white boy.
It's overcast in 10. I'm at Pearson.
Look at how I'm dressed in the neighborhood I'm in. I do this on purpose to show I'm from here. Leave me alone. Well, you're a white boy, so you don't know these things. I didn't know these things.
The TSX is higher for a third straight day, and it continues to be the best.
They take the money they get from you and spend it with me. I don't give a fuck who you are.
14,780, and that's with the price for gold in the red. It's down $3.1721. Oil is off 72 cents, $12.06 a barrel. And the Canadian dollar up by about a fifth of a cent, 71.43 cents US.
So did you guys learn anything about Canada's health response? We missed the first 20 minutes.
And at the moment, a fifth day, up by 5 points, still counts. The S&P is down 8, and the Nasdaq up by 79.
It literally doesn't, because an index fund would not have inched even a penny.
Chris McCusker.
Research shows that investors who work with an advisor accumulate 3.9 times more assets than those who don't. Advice matters. Now more than ever.
Rounds to the exact same numbers.
Advice. We all have a part in this. And regardless of what you do is considered essential, or you simply need to pick up a few essentials for your family, getting you there is important to us. That's why at Toyota, we're taking the necessary safety measures to ensure our parts and service department.
Should have got into a big fist fight to prove this and that with my coffee in my hand.
Local Toyota dealer or visit
What? I said it was different coffee. No, I'm leaving. Oh, I was hiding in the coffee shop. I'm hiding. It's covered in glass. He's standing in front of the same cameras on the outside that can see him, that can see me on the inside. Who's hiding? Like, I don't get it. If I step out there and we fight, or if you step in here and we fight. If you put your hands on me, I'm going to kill you, white boy.
Join the Canadian Wildlife Federation and say, grow it, don't mow it. Together, we can be part of positive change for pollinators. Learn more.
I made it a coffee. I think it's proof that I was able to do what I wanted to do, right?
This is All News Radio, 680 News.
A cloudy sky in downtown Toronto. It is 8 degrees. Good afternoon from the 680 News Broadcast Center. I'm Sarah Parrish.
Steve Roberts. Here are the top stories right now.
The federal government has provided an update on COVID-19 data and modeling showing that 1 week from today, next Tuesday, Canada could have up to 67,000 cases, while the number of deaths could hit 3,900. The updated modeling also predicts 79% of the deaths are related to outbreaks in long-term care homes.
Well, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the pandemic curve has flattened in many parts of the country, but Canada isn't out of the woods just yet. He says it is under better control, and until it is under really good control, restrictions still need to remain. 6 million surgical masks will be shipped out to provinces and territories this week, and 100,000 face.
Today, he's the man who drove drunk in 2015, causing a crash that killed 3 children and their grandfather. Lutzo is currently serving a 10-year prison term. Due to the pandemic, though, the mother of the children will be reading her over the phone.
And for these stories and more, you can always find them at 680news.com.
Sports from Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Here's Andrew Nye.
Sarah, the NHL has extended its player development agreements with the IIHF member federations for the 2020-21 season. The league has also reached a one-year player transfer deal with the Swiss Ice Hockey Association and extended its junior hockey deal, and he should be ready when called upon. Count Philip Deneau among those who think being away from family potentially for 3 to 4 months is too much. The Montreal forward saying today if the players have a say on a quarantine return, he's not sure it will be a positive one. He's not sure it will be a positive one. And we're hearing that has come up in return to play committee discussions. And Torrey Cruz says contract talks have been quiet, as in
this is the psychological impact of watching your coffee.
He wants Bruins fans to know how loyal he is having named his dog Fenway. Sports at 15 and 45 has
my thermos never fucking fell apart like that.
/590.
Tag, you protect your keys. If
you have to estimate, you can cover the entire landing of a typical high-rise fire escape stairwell with one large
cup. By courier for free. Order your key tags today
you need a complete bottle. You're not getting over that landing without stepping in it. One large cup.
15 or 25%. How about 30%? With all states,
I won 109
just by doing something they're already doing. Driving safe. That's right, 30% just by driving safe.
I should run my insurance and see what
is on News Radio 680 News. It's 12:48.
The first 4 things I screamed at this white guy.
Reopen as states lift restrictions.
Restaurants using disposable menus, plates, utensils, businesses closed,
and injecting them with a virus that could have serious consequences, including death.
Aside from the moral dilemma they pose, Dr. Angela Baldwin at Montefiore Medical Center said challenge trials also weigh a deeper understanding of the virus against expediency. Aaron Katersky, ABC News, New York.
Before that, Canada Food